I wasn't looking for an invitation. I stopped expecting those a long time ago. My name is Max Green. I'm 35 years and a self-made tech entrepreneur whose family had written off as a rebel and a loser for over 1 decade. It started like most evenings, sitting on the couch in my condo, laptop open, skimming a last-minute bug report from our Jakarta team while the glow from downtown Austin pulsed through my windows. A sliver of real life broke through when my phone buzzed beside me. I glanced over, expecting a calendar alert or maybe Raymond asking about the Monday onboarding deck. Instead, it was a screenshot. No message, just a picture from a group chat I hadn't been part of in years. Retirement dinner for Dad this Saturday. Oakwood Grill, 6 p.m. Just family blue heart. It took me a second to register what I was looking at. Then I noticed the names: Lauren, Dylan, Aunt Marcy, even that cousin who once shoplifted from a CVS and blamed it on me. The only name missing? Mine. The muscles in my jaw tightened. I tapped the screen to zoom in, like that would somehow change what I was seeing. Maybe it was a mistake. A second group I'd been accidentally left out of. I scrolled through my chats. Nothing. That's when a text came through. Dylan. Hey, just a heads up, Dad's thing is kinda close family. Hope you get it. Kinda close family. I read it twice, trying to decide which part bothered me more, the kinda or the hope you get it. I sat back against the couch, phone resting on my thigh, the edges digging into my skin. What I wanted to say. Got it. Loud and clear. What I almost said. I'm not kind of family, Dylan. I'm your brother. Our blood is the same shade of neglected. Instead, I typed. Was I not supposed to be included? I watched the little delivered icon appear. Then nothing. Minutes passed. The kind that make you feel like you're standing at a locked door, waiting to see if someone's on the other side. I put my phone down, got up, and poured myself a bourbon. Neat. 2 fingers. The kind of drink that makes you feel like you're in control, even when you're not. By the time I sat back down, the message was still unread. And then, almost 2 hours later, my sister replied, "Don't make this about you, Max." I laughed. Not the kind you'd share with friends over drinks. The bitter kind. Dry. Like bark cracking under frost. It's funny how exclusion doesn't always come in the form of slammed doors or shouted arguments. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's group chats you were never invited to. I stood, grabbed my laptop, and clicked open my travel app. Flight from Austin to Dayton. One way. Friday afternoon. Booked. It wasn't about showing up for them. Not really. It was about reminding myself I was still part of this story, no matter how much they wanted to write me out. I hadn't been home in years. The last time was for Grandma June's funeral. Even then, I stood like a stranger at the edge of every conversation. I brought flowers. Lauren brought silence. Dylan brought that same dumb smirk he wore when we were kids, and he'd rat me out for sneaking cookies. And Dad, well, Dad didn't say much then, either. Just looked at me like I was a flickering light bulb. Unreliable. Bound to burn out. I thought success would change that. That maybe if I built something real, something undeniable, they'd see me differently. Maybe they'd say we were wrong about you, Max. Instead, they just learned to say less. Shield AI had 37 full-time staff and contracts with 2 Fortune 500s. We just wrapped a 6-month deal with a logistics giant that nearly tripled our valuation. I'd been featured on a podcast recently. Someone called me a visionary. I laughed so hard I almost spit coffee on my CFO. But none of that mattered to the people back in Ohio. To them, I still did something with computers. The boy who ran off to chase zeros and ones instead of hauling drywall like a real man. The thing about estrangement is that sometimes it doesn't even announce itself. There's no big fight, no ultimatum, just a slow fade until you're not included in group texts anymore. And still, I booked that flight. Maybe it was pride, or stubbornness, or some part of me still hoping for a version of my family where I wasn't a footnote. I packed light, 1 carry-on, black slacks, a charcoal shirt, and the navy blazer I wore when we closed our Series B round. I stared at the empty guest room before I left, the one I never used. The walls were bare, save for a single framed photo. Me at 13, holding up a science fair trophy made of plastic and fake gold. My mom had mailed it to me years ago, wrapped in newspaper. No note, just the box and the past. I tucked the photo into my laptop bag. They could throw their retirement dinner. Pretend I was just some name in a family tree too complicated to explain to the kids. But I was coming back. Not for applause. Not for closure. Just to remind them I was still here. Whether they liked it or not. You don't forget the last words someone says before they stop believing in you. I was 22 the morning I left. Spring in Ohio was just thawing out. Mud instead of snow, grey skies instead of blue. The kind of in-between season that always felt like it couldn't decide who it wanted to be. I stood by the front door with a duffel bag slung over my shoulder, waiting for Dad to say anything that resembled a goodbye. He didn't. He leaned against the kitchen counter, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. Didn't even look up. I sent you the address, I said. For the boot camp. It's in Austin. 12 weeks. If it goes well, they say. I don't care what they say. He cut me off without raising his voice. They're not hiring you to do anything real. You'll be back when reality hits. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. That was it. I wanted to argue, to explain that I wasn't running away. I was running towards something. But I knew better. Dad didn't believe in explanations. He believed in results. And results looked like poured concrete and paycheck stubs. Behind him, Mom moved quietly around the kitchen, wrapping up a foil packet and slipping it into a brown paper bag. She walked over, pressed it into my hands without meeting my eyes. Meatloaf, she said. Cold. I nodded. Thanks. No note. No hug. Just lunch. A peace offering wrapped in apathy. Lauren was already married by then, managing the books for Dad's construction company and raising 2 kids. She didn't say goodbye either. She had church that morning. Or at least that's what she said when I knocked on her door. Dylan was in his senior year of high school. He just said, later, man. Like I was going out for a beer, not leaving home. I took a bus. Couldn't afford a flight. Rode 23 hours from Dayton to Austin with a laptop held together by duct tape and a prepaid cell phone. My coding boot camp gave out laptops on loan, but I didn't want to touch it until I earned the right. The first few weeks were brutal. Everyone was younger or faster or had some kind of degree. I was just a guy who built firewall plugins in his garage while working nights at a warehouse. I slept 4 hours a night, ate ramen, watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes burned. But something clicked. I wasn't the best, but I was relentless. I'd solve problems other students skipped. I'd debug their work for fun. I wasn't fast, but I never quit. And when we hit the final project week, the instructor asked me to present mine first. I built a real-time intrusion detection interface. Nothing fancy, but it worked. And when one of the tech recruiters from the showcase cornered me after class and asked if I wanted an internship, I said yes before he finished his sentence. That internship turned into a job. That job turned into 2 years at a cybersecurity firm where I built a reputation for reverse engineering exploits faster than their senior engineers. At 26, I quit and started my own company. Just me, 2 co-founders, and a rented garage in East Austin with a busted AC unit and Wi-Fi that dropped every time someone microwaved lunch. We called it Shield AI. We protected a food delivery startup first, just securing their payment API. But word got around. 1 client turned into 5. 5 turned into 20. Then came the Fortune 500s. Then came the roundtables, the podcasts, the conferences. I bought my first condo at 28. Nothing flashy. Brick, high ceilings, good light. I had space, but I kept the guest room empty. My family never asked where I lived. They didn't call. Not when Shield AI made its first million. Not when I was featured in Wired. Not even when I offered, anonymously, to cover Lauren and Jake's mortgage when Jake lost his job. I found out from a friend back home that their house almost went into foreclosure, that they were 3 months behind, that Lauren was thinking of taking a second job. So I sent the money through a trust, no name attached. 6 months of mortgage payments. She never asked who did it. I never told her. Sometimes people ask if it bothers me, being cut off like that. Having all the success in the world, but still feeling like I failed at the one thing that should have been simple. Staying part of a family. And I tell them it doesn't. But it does. It's not the money. It's not the validation. It's not even the recognition. It's that I could build a firewall strong enough to block out foreign hackers in seconds. But I couldn't build one strong enough to keep out the cold I carried from home. They pretend I disappeared. They don't speak about me like I'm dead. They don't speak about me at all. Like silence could rewrite history. Every so often, someone from town will message me on LinkedIn or Instagram. A teacher, a neighbor, a guy I used to play rec league ball with. Did you really start that security company? Your dad must be proud. I never respond, because they don't know. And I don't have the energy to explain that some people never say, I'm proud of you. Some people just pretend you never existed long enough that they start to believe it. But I know I existed. I have the calluses, the scars, the nights I coded until dawn, the contracts I negotiated, the employees I mentored, the systems I built. I existed in every keystroke. And now, after all these years, they're throwing a dinner. For Dad. Immediate family only. The irony? I built my own version of security from scratch. But the only door I never figured out how to unlock was the one back home. I wasn't supposed to recognize him. Not right away, anyway. Not in this context. New hire orientation days at Shield AI were usually a blur. 20 or so fresh faces packed into the 4th floor conference room, sipping cold brew and nodding along while HR droned through benefits slides. I liked to stop by near the end, shake a few hands, make it clear we weren't some faceless corporate monolith. So when I walked in and scanned the room like usual, I didn't expect to see a familiar jawline from my past life, sitting near the back. Ryan, Jake's little brother. He was thinner than I remembered, less of the scruffy high school rebel who used to sneak cigarettes behind the green family garage, and more of a clean-cut professional now. Collared shirt, shaved neck, a tablet in front of him that he wasn't pretending to use. His eyes locked with mine. A flicker of disbelief, recognition, maybe discomfort. He froze. I gave nothing back. Just nodded, quick and neutral, and kept the orientation speech moving. Welcome to Shield AI. Some of you will build things no one's ever thought of. Some of you will break things that were never supposed to be broken. And all of you, if you're doing it right, will make someone else's world a little safer. Polite laughs. Light applause. Ryan didn't move. He just watched me like I'd walked out of a television screen. An hour later, I was in the break room pouring coffee when I heard the cautious steps. Max. I turned. He stood there holding a notebook, half tucked under his arm, like a student unsure of his question. Hey, I said. Didn't expect to see you here. Yeah, same. He glanced at the floor, then back up. I applied under my middle name, Ryan Michael. Thought it might help me stand out. It worked, I said, smirking. But I didn't hire you. Hiring committee did. You made the cut. That's all that matters. He nodded slowly, then added, Lauren didn't tell me. I raised an eyebrow. She didn't tell me this was your company, he said. She just said Shield AI was hiring and that I should give it a shot. That landed harder than it should have. Not just the omission, but the casual rewrite of my life. Like I was still invisible, even when I was standing in front of them. Is this weird? Ryan asked. I shrugged, leaning against the counter. Only weird if you make it weird. He gave a nervous chuckle. Yeah, for sure. There was a pause, just long enough to become uncomfortable. She always made it sound like you were just around, he said finally. I smiled. Not warmly, not cruelly, just honestly. Well, I guess I am. Around. He winced a little. That's not what I meant. I know, I said. And I did. Ryan wasn't sharp-edged like the rest of them. More sponge than stone. He soaked things up, but didn't push back much. At least, not back then. I took a sip of coffee and changed the subject. So, you went from electrical work to cyber? Sort of, he said, his shoulders easing. Took some online sets. Worked IT for a bit at the county school district. Figured if I was going to sit behind a screen all day, I might as well protect something. Good instinct, I said. We need people like that. His mouth twitched into a small smile. Thanks. Means a lot coming from you. That surprised me more than it should have. The sincerity. The lack of pretense. He wasn't buttering me up. He actually meant it. Before he left the room, he turned back. Just so you know, I always thought what you did was cool. Even when everyone else acted like it was just computers. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. He walked out. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was standing on one side of a glass wall looking in. Over the next few weeks, I saw more of Ryan. Not because I sought him out, but because he showed up, in meetings, on Slack, in the break room. He asked questions, good ones, dug deep into our vulnerability protocols. He wasn't flashy, but he had grit. He reminded me of me, the earlier version. The version still trying to prove that just because you came from a place that didn't value ambition, didn't mean you couldn't build something meaningful. Once, after a team stand-up, he pulled me aside. Hey, he said. Off the record, they know you're successful, right? I raised an eyebrow. They? My brother. Lauren. Your dad. I looked at him. Really looked at him. They know, I said. They just don't talk about it. That way they don't have to admit anything changed. He nodded slowly, like he was storing that away. Then he said something I didn't expect. They're wrong, you know. About all of it. I didn't answer. Just clapped him on the shoulder and walked away. Because if I stayed any longer, I might have said something I'd regret, like thank you. And I wasn't ready for that yet. He may not have been a brother by blood, but in that moment, Ryan felt more like family than anyone I'd known since the day I left. And I realized something. You don't always find belonging in the people who raised you. Sometimes, you find it in those who finally see you. The oakwood grill hadn't changed. Same low-lit chandeliers. Same walnut paneling that smelled faintly of tobacco and ambition. Same menu that treated black pepper like a revolutionary idea. I walked in 5 minutes late on purpose. Not enough to cause a scene, but just enough to be noticed. The hostess blinked when I gave my name. The green party? That's the one. She hesitated, looked down at the reservation list, then motioned me toward the back room. The private dining area. Of course. As I crossed the main dining floor, I caught snippets of laughter behind the closed door. Familiar cadences, my father's gravel-thick chuckle, Lauren's sharper, clipped syllables. They were already deep into it. Like I'd never been invited because, in their minds, I never belonged. I pushed the door open. The room fell silent, just like that. 12 pairs of eyes turned toward me, forks halfway to mouths, glasses halfway raised. The silence had a weight to it, like someone had dropped a brick into the middle of their perfectly polished dinner. My father was the first to speak. Well, look who decided to grace us with his presence. I looked at him. Grey had taken over the sides of his head. Still broad-shouldered, still stone-faced. The kind of man who wore disapproval like cologne. Dad, I said evenly. Didn't realize your schedule had an opening for the people who raised you. No invite required, I said, stepping fully inside. Family, right? Lauren looked like she wanted to disappear into her wine glass. Jake's eyes darted between us, nervous. Helen, Mom, stiffened, one hand frozen on her napkin. I walked past the table, ignoring the empty seats, and stopped beside her. Slowly, I reached into my coat and handed her an envelope. Her hands trembled as she took it. She opened it carefully, and when she saw what was inside, 2 first-class tickets to Reykjavik, her breath caught. You said once, I murmured, that you wanted to see the Northern Lights. She looked up at me, blinking fast. Before she could say anything, my father scoffed. Always gotta be the hero, don't you? I turned to face him. The others watched like it was a tennis match, waiting for the next serve. I'm not here to be anything, I said. Just thought Mom deserved something she actually wanted. You think a plane ticket makes up for a decade of silence? That one hit, even if I didn't flinch. I didn't choose the silence, I said. I just stopped pretending I was being heard. He opened his mouth, probably for something cutting. But before he could speak, Ryan stood up from the far end of the table. He cleared his throat. All eyes turned. He's not showing off, Ryan said, voice firm. You just can't stand that he didn't need you. It landed like a slap. Lauren looked up sharply. Helen's fingers tightened around the envelope. Jake froze mid-bite. My father stared at Ryan like he'd just grown antlers. I'm sorry, what did you say? Robert asked. Ryan's voice didn't waver. I said, you didn't build him. You wrote him off. And he still made something incredible. You don't get to treat that like a threat. The room fractured. Lauren pushed her chair back slightly, guilt creeping across her face. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear. Helen. She just stared at the tickets, her lip trembling. My father sat back, arms crossed, the kind of posture men use when they realize they've lost control of a room. I let the silence hang. It wasn't mine to fill, not anymore. Eventually, I looked at Helen. You don't have to go. I just wanted you to know. I remembered. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly. I gave a small nod to Ryan. He gave one back. It was enough. Then I walked out, just as calm as I'd walked in. Outside, the night air hit cooler than I expected. Clean. Quiet. Like the room behind me had belonged to a different universe. I stood by the curb, watching headlights pass, breathing deep. I wasn't angry. I thought I might be, but I wasn't. I felt tall, grounded, like I'd just taken back a piece of myself they thought they'd buried under 10 years of silence. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about existing in a space they tried to erase me from. And for once, someone stood up for me who didn't owe me anything. Ryan, of all people. Sometimes, blood ties you to people who'll never see you. And sometimes, strangers step into that blind spot and pull you forward. That night, I didn't get an apology. I didn't get closure. But I got something better. I got the truth, said out loud. And it didn't come from me. I didn't expect the knock. It came late, well past 10. The hotel room was dim, one lamp on by the desk, laptop closed for once. I'd just made a cup of tea I wouldn't finish when I heard it. 3 soft raps. Hesitant. Familiar. I opened the door and found my mother standing there, a white bakery box in her hands, bundled in her tan coat, her eyes glinting beneath tired lids. "Hi, Max," she said. She hadn't called me that in years. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She moved past me, the way only mothers can, like they've never been anywhere but here, like they still remember where everything is supposed to go. She placed the box on the small table, then sat. "I thought maybe you'd want something sweet. After tonight." I opened the lid. Peanut butter fudge. My favorite when I was a kid. "You made this?" I asked. She smiled softly. "Tried to remember the way you liked it." I sat across from her. The silence stretched, but it wasn't heavy this time. More like the quiet between waves. "You didn't have to come," I said. "I know." She folded her hands on the table. Her wedding ring caught the light. "You surprised everyone," she added. "I figured." She nodded. Robert's set in his ways. I didn't say anything. "Ryan," she said. "What he said, he was brave. He's not wrong, you know." My throat tightened. I hadn't realized how much I'd needed someone to say that. "He always liked you," she added. "He used to ask why we never talked about you." "And what did you say?" She looked down. I didn't. That was the problem. I let the silence fill the space between us again. Then I took a piece of fudge, broke it in half, and passed her a piece. "Still good," I said after a bite. She smiled a little. I was afraid I'd forgotten how. I looked at her. Really looked. She looked older than I remembered. Softer. Less composed. There were lines around her mouth I hadn't seen before, and something tired in her eyes that hadn't been there the last time we spoke. "I don't need anything from him," I said. "I just didn't want to be erased." Her eyes lifted to mine. "You were never erased, Max. Not really. You all moved on like I never existed. That was our guilt, not your failure. That sat between us, sharp and strange. I didn't know what to say to it." She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a small envelope. "It's not much," she said, "but I thought you should have this." Inside was a photograph. Me at 8 years old, crouched behind a fortress of cardboard boxes in the backyard. I'd drawn fake wires and warning signs all over it with a black marker. On the back, in my father's handwriting, "Security System Prototype, 1998. Should have known." I blinked. It was the closest thing to affection I'd ever seen from him. "When did he write this?" I asked. "I found it in one of his toolboxes a few years ago. I guess he kept it." I turned the photo over again and again, trying to read between the lines. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a confession. But it was something. A trace. A crack in the concrete wall that had separated us for so long. She stood after a while, pulled her coat tight again. "I should go," she said. "But thank you for the tickets. I haven't told him yet." "You don't have to," I said. "You should go anyway." She nodded. Then, on impulse, she leaned in and kissed the top of my head. "I never stopped being proud of you," she whispered. And just like that, she was gone. 2 days later, Lauren called. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times before I answered. "Hey," I said. She didn't say anything at first. Then, quietly, "I didn't mean what I said in the text." "Which part?" "That it wasn't about you." "It was." It always was. I let that hang. She filled the silence. I was angry when you left, she said. I thought you were better than us. I didn't, I said. I just didn't want to be like you. That's worse, Max. Maybe, I said. But it was honest. She sighed. You missed a lot. So did you. Another pause. You really paid our mortgage? She asked. I didn't answer. Jake must have found out somehow and told her. We were drowning, she said. And you just, what? Stepped in and left no name. I just wanted the kids to stay in their home. There was a sound like she was crying, but trying not to. I don't know if we'll ever be okay, she said. But I don't want to pretend you don't exist anymore. That's a start. We said goodbye without saying anything else. A few days later, a note arrived at my office in Austin. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting before I opened it. Max, never thought you'd make something real. Guess I was wrong. Dad. That was it. No apology. No warmth. Just 12 begrudging words scrawled in mechanical pencil. But I sat with it. And strangely, I didn't feel empty. I felt seen. And maybe that was enough, for now. The lake shimmered like poured silver under the Texas sun. My backyard stretched wide, a green expanse leading to the dock where my nephew was trying, unsuccessfully, to bait a hook. Laughter drifted from the patio, where Ryan was manning the grill like a general, flipping burgers and yelling at no one in particular. I stood just inside, by the open glass doors, sipping iced tea and watching it unfold. The strangest birthday party I'd ever hosted. And it wasn't even my birthday. It was Dad's. 70 years old. He'd made it. He sat off to the side in a weathered wooden chair I'd dragged down from my office. Sunglasses on, hands folded over his belly, surveying the scene like he still owned it. He hadn't said much since they arrived that morning. A handshake, a stiff nod. I didn't expect more. I didn't need more. Lauren arrived with the cake, a towering monstrosity of chocolate and strawberries she insisted was low sugar for Dad. The kids squealed as she lit the candles. Ryan came in to grab napkins, winked at me. You sure this is real life? Feels like a parallel universe, I muttered, and we both laughed. When everyone gathered around the cake and started singing, I caught Dad glancing at me. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. After the candles were blown out and the cake was sliced, I slipped back inside to get something. The old photo, the one Mom had given me back at the hotel, the one I still didn't fully understand. I kept it in my desk, framed now. 8-year-old Max with his cardboard security system, complete with scribbled cameras and wires. Should have known, he'd written on the back. I found it, hesitated, then walked out and handed it to him. Recognize this? I asked. He took the frame, eyes scanning it slowly. The others were busy with cake, distracted. It was just the two of us in that moment, suspended in time. He grunted. Built that damn thing during a tornado warning. Wouldn't come inside until you were done. You yelled at me for wasting duct tape. His mouth twitched. Because you used the good kind. We sat in silence for a while. I took the seat next to him. He kept his eyes on the lake. You did all right, he said. That's new. He shrugged. Takes some men longer to admit they're wrong. And some never do. He looked at me, not defensive, just tired. We didn't know what to do with you, Max. You weren't like the rest of us. I wasn't supposed to be. That made us feel small. I blinked. That admission carried more weight than any apology could have. I didn't mean to make you feel anything, I said. I just wanted to make something that was mine. He nodded slowly, still holding the photo in his lap. Your mother loved that picture, he added. Said it meant you were always meant to build things, even if they weren't made of concrete. I swallowed hard. I think I built something better. He glanced at the patio where my team mingled with my family. Two worlds I thought would never touch. Seems like it, he said. We didn't hug. We didn't toast. But when he stood and followed me back toward the group, he carried the photo with him. Held it like it mattered. Later, as the sun dipped behind the trees and the lake caught fire with gold, I stood at the edge of the dock barefoot, toes curled over the wood. Lauren joined me, 2 plastic cups of wine in hand. You did good today, she said, handing me one. I didn't plan it for me. Exactly why it worked. We clinked cups. Dad's not going to say it, she added. But this meant something. I know. She looked out across the water. I used to think you left us. But I get it now. You left to become yourself. I didn't want to lose you to do it. You didn't, she said. We lost ourselves. I didn't know what to say to that. So we just stood there. As night fell, the crowd thinned. My team said their goodbyes. The kids were packed into SUVs. Dad went inside for a nap and never re-emerged. Ryan stayed to help clean up. Lauren too. I walked back to my office once the yard was cleared. On my desk sat a slip of paper in Dad's handwriting, taped to the frame of the old photo. Just 5 words. Knew you'd finish it someday. That was it. Not love. Not redemption. Just recognition. But it was enough. I didn't come back for their forgiveness. I came back so they'd remember I existed. And now they do. On my own terms. That's my story. I didn't come back for forgiveness. I came back so they'd remember I existed. And maybe they finally do. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, let me know in the comments. Would you have stayed away? Or would you have done what I did? Subscribe for more real stories that make you feel something. And wherever you're watching from, remember, some people forget you until you become unforgettable.